Jack Rabbitt by Bruce Moran. Copyright White Glove Fiction 2021. To all dreamers. About the author. Bruce Moran is a Navy veteran and worked at NASA. He started publishing books in 1992 and has published over 500 titles. Bruce Moran is also an illustrator and a published author. He has authored technology books for Microsoft, Novell, CompTIA, and Cisco, and has written several Walt Disney World travel guides for Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Disney's Animal Kingdom, and Disney Hollywood Studios. He currently writes and illustrates children's picture books. Jack Rabbitt concept is the brainstorm of several brilliant individuals within my publishing environment. Bruce Moran, Larry Kavanaugh, Jeff and Jackie Lovell, Bob Doerr, Linda and Don Brewer, Corby and Jessica Tate, all Jack Rabbitt fiction team writers. The origin story of Jack Rabbitt. In the year 1100, it was one of those glorious mornings, bright, hot, and sunny in the West Texas hill country. A young Jack Rabbitt was already awake and out of his burrow, thinking about breakfast. As a rabbit, Jack was in the mood for some fresh greens and knew just where new patches of young sprouts were growing up the mountainside. Jack weaved around the cactus and sagebrush, starting up the well-known path to higher ground. After a few minutes of travel, he began hearing a strange noise. Stopping, he turned his ears to better hear, but it was nothing he could identify. Moving slowly, he hopped closer to where he was sure the sound was coming from. Wanting to get a better look, he cautiously peeked out from behind a red giant barrel cactus. To Jack's surprise, a man was chanting and dancing around a small fire. The strange man was dressed in feathers, with his body painted in many colors. Most notable was his left hand. It was all painted white up past his wrist like a long glove. In his right hand, he held what looked like a ball of bones, sticks, feathers, cloth, and who knows what else wrapped around what resembled a skull. While watching, Jack felt a slight tremor roll through the ground, and his sharp hearing caught the sound of a small but sharp crack. Looking around, then up the mountainside, he spotted a small puff of dust spit out into the sunshine. Jack had seen rock slides before, but this seemed different. It was then he noticed one big rock vibrating, and then it began to move. He was scared because he knew he was in the path of the coming rock slide. Jumping sideways, as rabbits often do, Jack started to run. He let out a loud screech as he bolted past the dancing man. The sudden sound and abrupt movement startled the man out of his trance and caused him to step backwards. In doing so, he slipped and tumbled into a narrow crevice. Jack, having seen the boulder start its fall, had darted into the same narrow opening to get out of its path. Both Jack and the strangely dressed and painted man watched in awe as the large rock slide took it right through the small fire across the trail, then continued rolling right over the side of the cliff. Needless to say, Jack's quick action had saved the man's life. The man turned and looked down at Jack and spoke. "Welcome, little rabbit. That was close, wasn't it? Thank you for saving my life." "What is your name?" he added. "Jack," replied the wide-eyed rabbit, staring up at the smiling man. "Hello, Jack. My name is Mohan. I am the medicine man, or shaman if you prefer, for my people, the nearby Apache tribe." "How do you speak my language?" asked Jack, "and how can I understand you?" "The Great Spirit has bestowed both knowledge upon me and the ability to perform many wondrous tasks. If I may ask, what is it that you desire? I would like to thank you for saving me." Jack knew immediately what he wanted, for often did he daydream about it. "Currently, my life is short in comparison to yours. I wish to have a very long life so I can travel and see many wonderful things." Mohan thought about the response briefly, then with a big grin climbed back out of the crevice and began to rebuild his fire. Jack stayed in the safety of the crevice away from danger and watched as the shaman went about his tasks. It took some time, but once he decided that the fire was just the right size, Mohan came back and slid into the dark crevice, all the while mumbling words, but Jack could not understand what they meant. Jack could hear Mohan moving around, tapping and scraping as he moved in the darkness. Suddenly Mohan let out a loud, "Aha! Found it!" causing a surprised Jack to jump. Then, climbing out the narrow opening, Mohan carefully opened his medicine bag as he shuffled back to the fire. He proceeded to pull out several items and began chanting a rhythmic phrase and dancing around the fire. After a few minutes, though not stopping his dance, he called for Jack to come out of the crevice. Cautiously, Jack moved out of the crevice and approached Mohan, staying away from the cliffside and the fire. He was afraid of the fire because his fur could burn. Mohan, still chanting and dancing, threw something into the fire which made it flare suddenly. Startled, Jack jumped back closer to the cliff wall. Mohan, laughing, coaxed Jack back and had him sit on a flat-topped rock he had placed next to the fire. At first, Jack was hesitant, but then decided that he would be safe. Mohan was nice, and besides, he had a pleasant voice for chanting. Mohan suddenly stopped in front of Jack, and from his hand tossed a dust ball towards him. Jack, who had his face, including both ears, turned towards Mohan, and now had both filled with the fine powder. More than that, though, the powder covered Jack from his head right down to his lucky feet. Rabbits have lucky feet, you know. Mohan started to chant and dance again. The rhythmic sounds from Mohan, along with his hypnotic voice, started Jack swaying back and forth. Mystical energy swirled around both Jack and Mohan. Sparks flew from the fire. Clouds rolled in. Lightning lit up the sky. Thunder rolled through the valley. Nearby cacti burst into flower. Grass turned green. Water sprung from the crevice to form a small creek flowing down the side of the mountain. All of this and more. Many strange things happened as Mohan did his magic. Suddenly, Jack was overcome with weariness and could no longer keep his eyes open. Jack awoke feeling different. Looking around, he saw Mohan sleeping on the ground next to the dying fire. Getting up, Jack went to the creek to get a drink. The water was the sweetest he had ever tasted. Looking around, he spotted some fresh green sprouts that were tender and tasted awesome. Hopping over to where Mohan, who was just waking up, lay. What just happened?" he asked. Mohan sat and stretched. "Well, Jack," he said, "you are now a very special being. The spirits of our land have granted you many new powers. Within each of your 4 lucky feet are amazing abilities, each one different. Firstly, your right front paw, the gift from the spirits of water from the west. Picture in your mind that you are an Apache warrior." Jack closed his eyes and thought, "I am an Apache warrior." The air stilled, and he felt his whole body tingle. Grinning, Mohan instructed him to go look at himself in the waters of the stream. Doing as directed, Jack moved awkwardly to a small standing pool. Looking at his reflection, he gasped as an Apache warrior was looking back at him. "Mohan," he cried, "what is going on?" Mohan gave a small chuckle and said, "Jack, you are now what we call a changeling, a being who can become any being they wish to be. From the spirits of the air and the east, your left front paw holds within it the power of great knowledge. It allows you to speak with anyone and understand them, animal, person, or spirit." With a wink, he added, "They also sharpened your wit." Now your hind feet. The left from the spirits of the earth, and the north, you have gained your wish of long life. In fact, you are now as timeless as the earth itself. This means you could live forever. Finally, from the south, the spirits of fire, you can magically move through time itself, allowing you to see not only the wonders of the present as you had desired, but also those that have come before and those yet to come. There is a catch to the powers you are gifted. Not only can you do no direct harm to others except when in the defense of innocent offers no ready alternative. Your very life is compelled to be helpful to all innocent beings wherever you visit. You will feel the need to protect these people from those who may seek to take advantage of them or the situation. Remember, though, you can use force only when necessary. Use your guile, intelligence, and wit to solve the problems, and use violence only as a last resort. Mohan paused, then added, "There are other facts that you need to be aware of. There are evil people in the world who will oppose the will of the spirits of our land. They have made their home on the island of stone heads. They call the place Rapa Nui, but you can find it on most maps as Easter Island, as that is what the white people have named it. You must never visit there, and be aware they have their own followers who may try to hinder or harm you." Know that your name is and will forever be Jack Rabbit. By keeping this in your mind, you will always remember your abilities and purpose. Forgetting could cause you to become lost in a new form. Oh, and you must not eat of the papaya fruit, for it is as poison to you, robbing you of your abilities, and will cause you to sicken and even die. If you ever find yourself so poisoned, you must eat some prickly pear cactus. It is of our lands, and as such is an antidote. Trying to remember all that Mohan had told him, Jack's mind kept coming back to one thought. What is a papaya? Jack then slowly turned in a circle. When he was facing directly in each direction, east, south, west, and north, he silently said his thanks to the spirits who had given him his new gifts. To each he promised to be one who helps the innocent, and to bring justice to when and where his travels may take him. Once done, he faced his new friend, Mohan, gave thanks again, and promised to never forget him, visiting and watching over Mohan's people when possible. Shortly after they parted ways, and over the next few weeks and months, Jack played with his abilities. First, by trying new forms such as a panther, a mouse, and even a coyote. He soon found, when in animal form other than his own, it was as a bird he found the most enjoyment. The flying allowed him to travel great distances faster, and to see the land as it spread out around and under him. Sometimes he would change into a plant. It was a peaceful way to watch the world go by. However it was as a human, he discovered real pleasures. The speaking, the wide variety of new foods, and especially playing pranks to correct bad behaviors. During this period, he mostly stayed in the West Texas country he knew and loved. After a while, though, he soon found he wanted, no, needed more. For the next 100 years or so, he traveled the world and through time, exploring the sights and tastes each new place brought, correcting wrongs, and meeting all types of interesting, though sometimes unsavory people, and generally having a grand time. But these are tales for another time, and to be told by better story spinners than I.